All right, Power Collections in PowerBASIC. Let's dive in. So, whether you're just starting out with coding or you've been at it for a while, this deep dive is all about making those collections click.
Yeah.
You know how spreadsheets are great for organizing data?
Yeah.
Well, imagine you could have that same kind of organization, but with like the power and flexibility of code.
Right.
That's what we're going to unlock today. We'll be looking at some training materials on Power Collections.
Awesome.
By the end of this, you'll not only know what they are, they're so darn useful for certain programming tasks.
Yeah.
Oh, and get this, there's a twist. We'll uncover a hidden gem about Power Collections that just might surprise you.
I think people often overlook how Power Collections strike that perfect balance between simplicity and flexibility.
Oh, for sure.
They really empower you to manage complex data in a way that feels intuitive, efficient.
Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics.
Okay.
The training materials start by talking about user-defined types, UDTs.
Right.
Now, if you're new to programming,
Yeah.
user-defined types might sound a bit intimidating, but stick with me. They're actually pretty straightforward.
Sure.
Think of it like this. You're running a business,
Okay.
and you need to keep track of your customers.
Yeah.
A UDT is kind of like creating a custom form for each customer with fields for their account number, name, address, phone number, you name it.
Yeah.
It's about bundling all that related information together.
Yeah, and that's a fundamental principle in programming, organizing your data in a way that makes sense.
Right.
UDTs act as these well-defined containers for information, making your code much cleaner and easier to work with.
Exactly. So we've got these tiny little UDTs, each holding all the info about a single customer.
Right.
But what if you have hundreds or even thousands of customers?
Yes.
That's where Power Collections come in.
Yeah.
Imagine them as these super organized containers that can hold a whole bunch of your UDTs.
Okay.
The beauty is they can grow or shrink dynamically, meaning you don't need to know exactly how much data you'll have beforehand.
That dynamic sizing is a huge advantage over traditional arrays, which have a fixed size.
Yeah.
That can be a real headache if your data needs change.
Oh, totally.
Power Collections are built right into PowerBASIC.
Nice.
Ready to use.
Sweet.
And they handle all that resizing magic behind the scenes.
I love it. But this container idea is cool and all.
Sure.
But how do I actually find the customer I'm looking for? It's not like I can just scroll through thousands of records every time.
That's where keys come in.
Okay.
Remember that account number field we talked about in our customer UDT?
Yeah.
That becomes our unique identifier, our key.
Gotcha.
It's how the Power Collection knows exactly where to find the data we need instantly.
So it's kind of like a superpowered index in a library.
Yeah.
You don't have to browse through every book.
Right.
You just look up the title on the catalog and go straight to the shelf.
That's a great analogy. Keys give you that direct line to the information you need, making data retrieval lightning fast, even with massive data sets.
Okay, I'm starting to see why these collections are so powerful.
Yeah.
We've got our organized UDTs, our efficient keys.
Right.
But how do we actually manage all this data?
Right.
This is where the training materials get really interesting.
Okay.
They introduce a set of methods that let us do all sorts of cool things with our collection.
Think of these methods as the commands you give to your Power Collection.
Gotcha.
They're the verbs that make it all happen. Let's start with add.
Okay.
As the name suggests, this method allows you to add a new UDT to your collection.
Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory.
Sure.
But what happens if I accidentally try to add the same customer twice? Do I end up with a duplicate?
That's a great question. Power Collections are designed to maintain data integrity.
Okay.
When you use the add method, the collection automatically checks if that key, in our case, the account number, already exists. If it does, it prevents the duplicate from being added.
Okay, so that prevents duplicates. But what if I want to overwrite a record? Is there a way to force it?
Absolutely. There are ways to handle that.
Okay.
For example, you can use the update method, which we'll discuss later, to replace an existing record entirely.
Got it. So no duplicate customers unless we specifically want them.
Right.
What about if I need to get rid of a customer from the collection entirely?
That's where the remove method comes in.
Okay.
And just like with add, it's all about efficiency.
Right.
You remove a record based on its unique key, not by searching through the whole collection.
Gotcha.
The collection goes straight to the source, so to speak, and removes the correct record instantly.
So it's not just about adding and removing data, but doing it in a way that's super fast and efficient.
Exactly. Efficiency is key, especially when you start working with large data sets.
Right.
Now, let's say you just want to check if a particular customer already exists in your collection. maybe before you try to add them.
Okay.
That's where the contains method shines.
Oh, and this contains thing.
Yeah.
This is huge for things like user logins.
Oh, yeah?
You can instantly check if an email is already registered.
Right.
That kind of speed is what makes these collections so powerful.
Precisely. Contains lets you quickly see if a specific key is already present in the collection.
Gotcha.
It's super useful for validating data and preventing errors.
Okay, so we can add remove check if something exists. What about actually getting the data OUT of the collection?
Right.
Like if I wanted to display a customer's information on the screen,
Sure.
How do I grab that data from the collection?
Good question. That's where the entry method comes in.
Okay.
It's like having a labeled box for each customer. You give the collection the label, which is the key, and it hands you the whole box, which is the corresponding UDT.
So if I wanted to display a customer's address, I'd use the entry method to grab the entire UDT based on their account number.
Right.
And then I could pull the address information from that UDT.
Exactly. Entry gives you access to the entire UDT. And from there, you can work with any of the individual data fields within it.
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what if a customer moves and I need to update their address in the collection? Do I have to remove the old record and add a new one?
Not at all. Power Collections make it much easier than that.
Okay.
Let's say you've got a customer's UDT and you need to change their address.
Yeah.
You simply modify the address field within the UDT.
Okay.
And then use the update method.
Gotcha.
This method tells the collection, hey, this UDT has been updated. Go ahead and replace the old version in the collection.
So you modify the UDT itself, then use update to sync those changes with the collection.
Exactly.
That's really slick. It's like you're working with a live dynamic data set.
And there's even more we can do.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the sort method we discussed earlier?
Yeah.
Power Collections give you the power to arrange your UDTs. You can sort based on the key or in ascending or descending order.
Okay.
It gives you incredible flexibility in how you present and analyze your data.
Wow, this is impressive. But what if I need to wipe the whole collection clean?
Right.
Like if I'm dealing with sensitive data and need to start fresh.
No problem. The clear method is your friend.
Right.
It empties the entire collection, leaving you with a blank slate.
Gotcha.
It's also really important for security, especially if you're working with confidential information.
Right. You wouldn't want any lingering data hanging around. So we've got adding, removing, checking, retrieving, updating, sorting, clearing. What LSE can these collections do?
Well, just like you might scroll through a spreadsheet row by row, Power Collections give you the ability to navigate through your data.
Okay.
There are methods for going to the first record, the last record, the next record, and the previous record. It's like having precise control over your data pointer.
So that's like having fine-grained control over how you move through your data.
Right.
And what about if I need to know exactly how many customers are in my collection?
For that, you have the count method.
Yeah.
It gives you an instant tally of the number of records in your collection.
Gotcha.
Which is super useful for reporting and other data-driven tasks.
Okay, this is all making sense, but there's one thing that's been bugging me.
Sure.
All this data we're talking about, it's all stored in the computer's memory, right?
Right.
Which is super fast. But what happens when I close the program?
Right.
Does all that carefully organized data just vanish?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to a critical aspect of Power Collections: persistence.
Okay.
You're absolutely right that Power Collections reside in memory.
Yeah.
Meaning they're gone when the program ends unless we take steps to save them.
Hold on. I'm trying to picture this. So if I need to save game progress, I could write each UDT to a file.
Yes.
And
then when you want to load the game later, you'd simply read those UDTs back from the file and use the add method to rebuild the entire collection.
Gotcha.
It's like taking a snapshot of your data and then recreating it on demand.
Wow, that's actually pretty clever. Now here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
You know how we've been using one UDT per customer?
Yes.
Well, what if we wanted to store even more data about them? Like their contact info and their account balance.
Yeah.
Would I need to create two separate collections and somehow link them?
Not necessarily. Power Collections have a hidden gem that allows you to store different types of UDTs within the same collection.
Wait, what? How is that even possible? Wouldn't the collection get confused about which UDT belongs to which customer?
It's all about using our keys strategically.
Okay.
Let's say we have a customer with account number 2034.
Yeah.
We can create a UDT for their contact information. and use customer 1234 as the key.
Gotcha.
Then we can create a separate UDT for their account balance and use account 1234 as the key.
So you're prefixing the account number with a label to differentiate between the types of data.
Exactly.
That's ingenious. It's like having different folders within the same filing cabinet.
This allows you to store multiple distinct UDTs for the same customer, all within one Power Collection.
Wow.
And you can retrieve the specific data you need using the appropriate key.
This is blowing my mind. It's like having the power of a relational database, but all within this one amazingly flexible collection.
And we've only just begun to explore the possibilities.
I'm starting to see how this can be incredibly powerful for managing complex data.
Yeah.
All right, so we've seen how Power Collections work.
Right.
We've even peeked at them in action with that customer database example.
Yeah.
But now I'm curious, when is the right time to use these things?
Right.
Are they always the best tool for the job, or are there times when something else might be a better fit?
That's the mark of a truly seasoned programmer.
Yeah.
Knowing not just how to use a tool, but when. Power Collections are incredibly versatile, but they're not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Sure.
Let's think about their strengths first.
Okay.
We talked about dynamic sizing,
Right.
which is amazing when you don't know how much data you'll be dealing with up front.
Right, like if you're building a game and the number of enemies can change depending on the level.
Exactly.
Having that flexibility is huge.
Then there's the key-based access, which is all about speed and efficiency.
Yeah.
As your data grows, being able to pinpoint exactly what you need using a key is way faster than searching through every single record.
For sure. And we can't forget those UDTs.
Right.
They're like little data packages, keeping everything organized and making our code much cleaner.
So to put it all together, Power Collections really shine when you need that combination of dynamic sizing, fast key-based access, and the ability to manage complex data structures with UDTs.
Okay, that makes sense. So things like customer databases, inventory systems, game logic where you're tracking players and items, those all seem like perfect fits for Power Collections.
Yeah.
But what about situations where they might not be the best choice?
Well, if we're talking about a simple list of numbers, for example, a plain old array might be more than sufficient.
Yeah.
Or if you just need a basic list of names,
right,
a regular array might even be faster because you don't have the overhead of managing keys and UDTs.
So if I don't need the fancy key-based search or the ability to store complex data, an array might be the way to go.
Exactly.
It's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
And it's worth mentioning that while Power Collections are generally very efficient, there's always a small cost associated with that flexibility.
Right.
Managing those keys and UDTs does take a tiny bit of extra processing power.
So for applications where speed is absolutely critical, or every millisecond counts, it might be worth considering other options. But for most everyday programming tasks, Power Collections strike a great balance between power and ease of use.
I think that's a key takeaway.
Yeah.
Power Collections give you a lot of power without sacrificing clarity and readability in your code.
And one thing that's really resonated with me throughout this whole deep dive is the idea of experimentation.
Yeah.
The training materials gave us a great foundation, but they also encouraged us to take what we've learned and run with it.
That's the best way to learn.
Yeah.
Try out Power Collections in your own projects.
That's it.
Push the boundaries, see what works, see what doesn't.
Exactly.
You might even discover some clever techniques that we haven't even touched on here.
I love that. It's all about that spirit of exploration and discovery. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Power Collections, I just want to say thank you for taking this journey with me. I hope you've come away with a solid understanding of what these collections are, how they work, and why they're such a valuable tool for programmers.
It's been a pleasure exploring this topic with you.
Yeah.
Power Collections are truly a testament to how elegant and powerful programming can be.
And remember, deep divers, this is just the beginning. Keep learning, keep coding, keep pushing the boundaries.
Right.
And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one teaching others about the amazing things you've built with Power Collections.
Absolutely.
Happy coding.